why do I do this? Why do any of us do this? And I do think that you have to go a few levels deeper because there's some, as I said in the film, there's some level of comfort in our discomfort when we're struggling, that we're not supposed to be this comfortable.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 160 of the Running for Real podcast. Welcome to this podcast. If this is your first time listening, I am excited that you are here. And actually, on that note, I just want to tell you to give me a bit of grace when it comes to my audio over the next few weeks. I did just move to St. Louis. I am trying to get everything adjusted, but I can tell it sounds a bit echoey. So my editor, Jeremy, is doing an amazing job trying to work with what I'm doing here. But I am in this kind of old house. It's very open and there's not that much stuff unpacked to move around yet. So please give me some grace with that. The audio is usually much better than this, and I will work on getting an improvement. Just for now, if you could give me some grace. All right. On to the more important stuff. Last week, we had Dr. Jennifer Gaudiani. We talked about eating disorders, but we also talked about so much more, particularly our relationship with food, all of us. It was quite a powerful one, and I know it has got a lot of you thinking about your own habits. It definitely even made me think about things, and I thought I'd come a long way. If you missed it, and I'm not saying whether you do feel like eating is something you struggle with or not, go back and listen to that one. It's a really powerful episode, particularly what was going on kind of in the industry, talking about females with the Mary Cain story. Go back and listen. That episode is incredibly powerful. Dr. Gaudiani is one of the leaders in the industry when it comes to this topic. Now, today, you have an in-person episode from my time in New York. This one was actually a bit of a miracle in the making. This guy does not do many interviews. In fact, he told me he says no most of the time to these topics that he was, to the interviews that he is offered. But I happened to text him at the right time, having exchanged numbers a few days before. Hadn't met him in person. We just kind of said if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I happened to text him just at the right time. He was close to my hotel and he had a few moments free. I hadn't even written out any questions. So while he was walking his 5 minutes from his where he was to my hotel, I scrambled for questions while stuffing down some food because I just finished my live show with Dina and Fader and Kubra, and it was just a crazy time. But I knew that Billy would be pretty easy to talk to, and wow, was it a good conversation. I thought we would talk about filmmaking, getting to what it's like to follow around elites and getting to know them, but we went so much deeper than that. This is one of those real, raw conversations that just breaks down barriers and just is really vulnerable and just a beautiful conversation. Now, I'm excited to bring you my conversation with Billy Yang. If you've not already watched Billy's videos on YouTube, be sure to go do that. Although, just a warning, don't do it when you know you have something important going on anytime soon, because you will end up down a rabbit hole. They are addicting to watch. Thank you to Billy for doing this. He recorded this with me the afternoon before his first New York City marathon, where he was already exhausted from a weekend of work he'd already done. He did, in fact, run the marathon the next day with one of the athletes we're going to talk about today, and I was tracking him all the way around, so that's pretty cool. Before we go meet Billy, I just want to thank our sponsors, and we'll get right to the episode. Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I told you a few months ago how I was loving taking my Athletic Greens every morning. It slipped solidly into my morning routine. So I wake up, stumble down the stairs, put some cold water in a shaker or glass, add a scoop of Athletic Greens, and drink it while I do my gratitude list and journal. Friends, I cannot tell you how nice it feels to have a morning routine that just seems to work. It starts me off in the right way physically and emotionally, as I know my body is getting 14 fruits and vegetables worth of antioxidants before 6 in the morning. as well as probiotics and prebiotics and 75 wholesome ingredients. But I'm also starting off my day with gratitude, which is a game changer. I love that when I'm traveling or not, I can hold my head high with confidence knowing that Athletic Greens has my back. And now as we move into sickness season, those germs are everywhere. Athletic Greens will build up your immune system so you can fight them off without getting sick every single time. And after a few months of taking it, your body will be so much better at fighting and just keeping those sick bugs away. I can already see that within my body. And I actually like taking it. It doesn't taste like other green drinks, which tastes like literally drinking a cup of pulverized grass. But this actually does have a pleasant taste and I sip it. That's how enjoyable it is. You can get a 20 serving travel pack that's $79 value free with your order. So go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to get yourself some. You have worked so hard to train for your goals. Don't let sickness take it away from you at the last second. Go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to go get yourself some. Billy, I am so excited and honored you are sitting here with me to record this podcast. So welcome to the Running for Real podcast.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me.
No, it's exciting, especially as you told me you can be selective with things like this that you say yes to. So I'm honored you have said yes to come on the show here. And especially we are both at New York Marathon weekend. You're running tomorrow.
Yes, I am.
As we are recording this. And so you obviously should be resting right now, but you're sitting here with me. Although you are sitting, so at least that's something.
I consider all of this training, especially in this world of ultra marathons. Anytime on your feet.
That is true.
It's a good thing. Even food. So believe me, I've been testing my stomach this week because New York City is full of, especially if you're into carbs.
Wait, what do you mean bulimia?
No, I didn't say bulimia. I said believe me.
Oh, bulimia. Yeah. I was like, no. You've been testing bulimia?
That would be a horrible thing. My word, no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Believe me.
Yeah, I am a little cross-eyed tired because I've been lacking in sleep lately just because I am here for work. Mm-hmm. So a lot of editing, a lot of production. But so if I stumble over anything, if I don't enunciate, I apologize.
Okay. All right. Well, I will try and forgive you for that. And at least I will clarify if nothing else. So I hope you're prepared for some mental fog tomorrow then, because when I worked like crazy before Boston, my brain I felt like I was in a cloud. Yeah. So you ready for that?
Well, let me clarify.
Well, you've done way more tough stuff than this.
No. Well, it's all relative, right? And
yes,
I think the more condensed the race gets, the more difficult, the more anaerobic or closer to anaerobic you can get. To be clear, tomorrow is work. But one of the perks of my work is that I get to do something like this while filming. So I don't want to bore you with all the details, but I will be running with a first-time marathoner, documenting her journey from start to finish. That is my main goal. The secondary goal is to do the New York City Marathon, a bucket list as often as that is used, a bucket list race for me, truly. And for me to have the opportunity to do this, get paid for it ostensibly, and also experience this race for the first time is a dream come true.
Pretty cool. And by the time this comes out, it will have already happened. So you guys can go look up Billy if you don't already follow him. And
don't look up my time, but look up my content.
Where should they go to see your social media feeds?
Yeah. Billy at Billy Yang. Billy Yang Films on YouTube, I guess, are the main thing in the Billy Yang podcast.
All right, look at you. We've got your all your stuff in at the beginning. That's usually saved right for the end. So
I'm always plugging.
I guess you're the master. Although Nick Simmons is the master of plugging his products and names and everything. Okay. All right, so 9 million views, or it almost will be by the time this comes out. On YouTube, you have...
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I said, 8.8.
That sounds very impressive.
It is impressive. And 72,000 subscribers. Now, you've done all kinds of videos following athletes that people know and love, following races that people know and love, primarily trail and ultra races. But the number one video, you should know this, on your site is, do you know what?
I do.
It's about you.
It's about me.
And your first 100 miler, which is... How does that make you feel thinking like...
It's not my first. It was my third 100 miler. But it was the first 100-mile race that I documented and wanted to get people a peek behind. It's never an easy thing, especially as somebody who is crafting the story behind the scenes in post-production as an editor. that was one of the most difficult edits I've ever had to do, because the entire time I'm virtually yelling back at the screen going, oh, you wuss, or oh, you like, why couldn't you get your attitude together? Why couldn't you pick your legs up?
So you watching it afterwards were like mad at
after
yourself?
After the fact, not mad at myself, I guess. I think I just have a habit of being self-critical. And
you do? I
do.
think 99% of us do.
Yeah, so I'm not special that way?
No,
okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, it was surprising. I think I actually this is one of those projects where you have the vision and you pitch it, and you and the brand is on board to help you realize that vision. And I don't want to say it was seamless, but it worked out pretty well from the initial vision. Usually, as ultramarathons do, and projects relating to ultramarathons, it can deviate pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So while I had this vision of documenting my own race and showing what a 100-mile race is like to the layperson, I think that was a goal in the vision.
Yeah.
In my little niche circle of ultramarathoners, this is a common thing. And I didn't want to come across as I'm the only one doing this. I'm a special person. Quite the contrary. I'm a very average runner who wanted to try to explain to the layperson why this happens, why mere mortals like myself will embark on a race as crazy as a 100-mile race.
Yeah, and I want to go into that video deeper, because I think that did represent a lot, and you did nail it for those things you wanted to do, because I definitely felt like they came across. But I want to firstly just talk about you, and I mentioned some of those stats earlier from what you've done. How do you manage to stay humble now? Are there any moments where you have to kind of remind yourself of like, look how far I've come with just this filmmaking and these opportunities that I get? How do you kind of keep yourself from getting carried away with it?
That's an interesting question. I think rooted behind me as a person and who I am, first and foremost, is I am somebody who is an immigrant who came to this country when he was 6 years old, didn't know a lick of the American language, and was crippled and paralyzed by fear. And so I still have that 6-year-old in me from Korea who came to this foreign land, and from every day forward wanted to be like everybody else, wanted to connect, wanted to blend in. And I never saw that as this virtuous thing or this cool thing to be different and to set yourself apart. And so there was a lot of me trying to fit in from day one. And so I guess rooted in that is some sense of like, I don't want to say it's validation, but some sort of dependency in that, or mindset in that I will never fully be accepted, let alone like praised for my work.
You still feel that now, even like you have to fight the thoughts?
I will never hang my hat on any one work or like the numbers you told me. Clearly, I knew about the why, the film that you're referencing about my Leadville race. I knew the numbers of that, and I did allow myself to pat myself on the back when it reached 1 million viewers. But I don't look at numbers hardly ever, or I don't see it as a reflection of how well something's done. Those aren't my metrics. I do get a lot of people who write me offline or shout me out on social media. Those things are all nice. But as far as I'm concerned, that was yesterday's work. And today you need to work even harder to either maintain that or surpass that. And so it's just a never-ending hole that you're taking yourself into.
Does that ever worry you, the fact that you feel like you're maybe never going to be like, it's never going to be enough? And we as runners know that feeling. You have one goal, you get there, I want the next goal, you get there, and you never really... Does that part worry you, that you're never going to do anything in your career that you're going to think, wow, I did that, like it's never going to be enough?
I don't know about the enough part. I guess I do worry that, to put it in sports terms, like I've lost my fastball. Like maybe, what if my best work was behind me? Who knows?
Did you stop and celebrate along the way?
No. I will celebrate community. One of my favorite things about releasing a film, putting together a film, is to do these screenings and showings and gathering communities. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I will continue to do that down the line, I guess. But it's also like super nerve-wracking to actually show something that you've crafted
Oh, yeah.
in front of a public audience and you're in the back pacing back and forth.
Well, at least you're in the back, not in the front, so you can't see
well,
that.
at the end of it, you still have to address them,
That's
right?
true.
And you have no idea how the film came across, and you're talking to them. That's still something I'm working on, but I will, in some way, shape, or form, I will always be that 6-year-old kid.
Thank you to Body Health for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast and for supporting me. I've been working with this brand for the last 5 years, and they've supported me through every stage of my life. When I was an elite trainee to get my first Great Britain and Northern Ireland jersey or vest, I was taking Perfect Amino tablets to help me recover. When I was competing for my country in a world championship, I took it then. When I was trying to desperately recover from that world championship before my marathon just 5 weeks later, which I went on to run a 4-minute PR and break 2:40 for the first time. Or actually, if I can just brag for a moment, I smashed that 2:40 barrier running 2:37 that day. Thank you to Perfect Amino for helping me recover in between those two big races. They supported me as I allowed my body to recover from the intense training and, honestly, malnutrition I'd put it through. Many of the other brands I worked with left me, but Body Health stayed, kept supporting me, and Perfect Amino helped my body recover from those years of abuse I'd put it through. They supported me through pregnancy because, yes, it is safe to take, and actually it can really help you because, shocker, your body is going through a lot of stress during that time it is creating a child. And you can also take it during nursing. It's going to help there too, because yes, your body is going through a lot there. And now when my life is just totally stressful and out of control and hectic, and I haven't honestly been looking after myself very well, Body Health Perfect Amino has been there for me too. And it will be there for you too. These are wonderful people. You can just use code TINAMUIR, TINAMUIR, at tinamuir.com/aminos, and you will get 10% off your order while learning all about all the other products they offer, because they do have quite a lot. And if you're really into holistic living, this is going to be a site you're going to want to spend a lot of time on, because there's lots of great products there. There are hundreds of you who have already tried it and loved it. And if you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? They have a 100% money back guarantee. Go to tinamuir.com/aminos. That's AMINOS. Use code TINAMUIR for 10% off.
I will celebrate community. One of my favorite things about releasing a film, putting together a film, is to do these screenings and showings and gathering communities. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I will continue to do that down the line, I guess. But it's also like super nerve-wracking to actually show something that you've crafted.
Oh, yeah.
In front of a public audience, and you're in the back pacing back and forth.
Well, at least you're in the back, not in the front, so you can't see that.
Well, at the end of it, you still have to address them,
That's
right?
true.
And you have no idea how the film came across, and you're talking to them. That's still something I'm working on, but I will, in some way, shape, or form, I will always be that 6-year-old kid who is not accepted and who is constantly striving to seek others' approval. And I don't want to say that's my compass or my North Star. It's not, but it is something that I constantly push and pull and struggle against.
Yeah, and I think we all have some kind of something from our childhood that does, control a lot of what we do and the decisions that we make. And I'm very much the same. I don't know how much you have looked into me in general, but I ran at the elite level as a marathoner, and I always wanted more. Like, I never felt like it was enough. I did run for Great Britain. That was always my number one goal when I
in the marathon.
In the half marathon.
Okay.
But once I did that, I felt like that was the thing checked off my list. But even so, the marathon time still just kept going up to a point where I now look back and I'm so proud of those times. But at the time, it was just like, well, yeah, that's fine, but everyone else is 2 steps higher, so I've got to get up there. So it makes me sad thinking back on it, and that I didn't appreciate the little steps along the way. Yeah,
but that's you through and through, right?
Yeah.
I think there are elements of that when I look back, like, why didn't I do this differently? Or what in my attitude, like, why didn't I try to enjoy the ride a little bit more? That kind of stuff. You are inherently who you are.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I think that's not necessarily a virtuous thing, but I do think that that constant energy or that constant focus on keeping yourself sharp, keeping your craft sharp, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I've certainly learned to ease back a little bit. I used to work. I used to burn the midnight oil, sometimes at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. oil, and now I try not to abuse myself too much and appreciate life a little bit more along the way, and strive for some semblance of balance to me. Yeah, that's unique to me.
Yep, absolutely. And I thankfully have been pretty good at managing the same thing. Since having a child, it tends to do that for you. Just a side note, have you seen the film The Greatest Showman?
I have not.
Oh, it's one of my favorite films. And in that, the guy just constantly, people think it's about a circus, but it's not. It's about the guy who he keeps striving for more until he's basically isolated everyone around him.
Is it a documentary or is it a scripted film?
It's a musical.
Okay.
It's like, I didn't think you would have seen it. It's like the cheesiest thing. It's got Hugh Jackman in it, but I love it.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay,
I was going to say, you should have at least heard of it because it did really well. But that's obviously beside the point. So let's go back to your running journey. How did running come into your life in the first place?
Oh, do you want the long version, the medium version, or the short version?
Let's go the medium version.
Okay, the medium version. The medium version is that, where to begin? I always thought running was a dorky thing. I played American football growing up in high school. I'd pick up basketball. I would always see these skinny little runts in split shorts running around the track and running around on the grass field. And I thought, why are they doing something that's our punishment? I know it's so cliche, but it's true. When we got in trouble in football practice, they would make us do sprints. They would make us do running drills. And we are talking Los Angeles, Valley, summer, 80, anywhere from 80 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And you are in full pads, helmet, and drinking water is seen as a sign of weakness. So anyway, I always looked at it like, what are these people doing? And I'm going to fast track the story somewhat. I was a smoker for 12 years.
Really?
Yes. And oh God, every now and again I still crave a cigarette. I'm not going to lie, and I haven't smoked in at least a couple of decades. But
Brene,
anyway.
do you know who Brene Brown is?
I know. Yes,
she
I know the
talks
name.
about how she misses smoking, and sometimes she just feels like when she's driving, she needs to hold a pencil in her fingers.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but there are sometimes after a nice meal when I step outside a restaurant and a cocktail, I'm like, you know what, cigarette, kind of nice right now. I miss the social element of it. Yeah. But anyway, and then there was a period when I had a thing happen in my life where I was motivated to become a police officer. And to become a police officer, you had to get in shape because there's the academy. If you pass, there's a long, arduous process where they comb through your entire life history and you go through a physical challenge and physical tests. And then there's the police academy where, from the pictures I saw, there's a lot of running, calisthenics, that kind of stuff. So I knew I had to be in shape. I couldn't be a pack-a-day smoker or whatever I was. So I quit smoking. I finally broke from it from years of trying. But I didn't get into the academy. But shortly after that, or not too long after that, I had a friend who suggested we sign up for the half marathon, foregoing any 5Ks or 10Ks leading up to it. And it sounded just crazy enough. Like a full marathon or Ironman or half Ironman sounded like another universe. But when he suggested the half marathon, I thought, maybe this is doable. And I actually remember what I did. I looked up the previous year's photos, like the race photos that you see, and kind of went towards the back of the pack. And I said, all right, there's some of these people who don't look like runners who are completing this thing. Maybe it's not so scary. So I did it, had the whole runner's high towards the end, and I was hooked, and I signed up for a full marathon, about a month after that.
Like the race was a month, or you signed up a month?
So the race happened. I fell in love with running. There was the LA marathon that took place about a month after that.
Oh, wow. So
I said, I'm already on this trajectory. Let's keep the ball rolling. Okay. Sign up for that. And the rest is history. And then I discovered trails about a year or two after that. And then
what year was this you started running?
This is 2000. Well, I guess it was technically late 2006, but 2007 was the half marathon and the marathon.
Okay.
Yeah. And then trail running 2008. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then has your relationship with running changed since then? Like how, you were hooked, but I'm assuming your love of running, the way you feel about running has changed, kind of all you've seen and all you've discovered since then.
Yeah, I mean it's a lifestyle. It truly is. It's not this passive relationship that I have with it. Obviously, a lot of things I do are like intertwined with running and endurance running. But I think it's so symbolically, metaphorically, as somebody who, I don't know, I didn't have that natural gene of being this driven person. So the idea of endurance running, a marathon, an ultra marathon, is antithetical to my thinking. It just is. I always sought shortcuts in my life. I always like tried to figure out the hack. I always tested high IQ wise in academics, but I was always like middle of the road average students because that's probably the amount of exertion I sought to do just enough to not get in trouble, but to never like fully succeed. So I always see this as I do love running. I do love how it makes me feel, but getting out the door is always difficult, always a challenge for me. Because I do believe that there's that part of me that's just prone to wanting to, quote unquote, take the easy way out.
Yeah.
To rest, to not put in the tempo workout, to not put in the hill repeat, to not put in the long run. It's a constant mental battle that I'm struggling with. But once I'm out there, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm running on trails. I'm in the middle of the Santa Monica Mountains or the San Gabriels in Southern California. It's beautiful. I get a lot of solitude. I get a lot of mental relief. But
do you mostly run alone?
I'm sorry?
Do you mostly run alone?
I would say so. I do have a bit of an odd schedule, so try to sync that with someone is difficult. But for me, there's no better way to either catch up with a friend or even conduct business, a business meeting. I love doing that outdoors.
All right, next time we see each other, we're going to go for a run.
That's the deal. Yeah. Anytime you come through LA, I'll show you some of my favorite trails, and it's awesome.
Yeah, because LA trails don't really come to mind.
It never does. We have everything, though. I promise you, we have everything. We have the beaches, we have trails, we have mountains, like legit mountains.
I lived in Aliso Viejo for 8 months.
Oh, well, there you go.
So I know that part, but LA itself to me is like an urban jungle.
Yeah. Yeah, but I live like by the beach, and it's great. It's very like community oriented, and I love that. I love where I live.
Cool. And just so nice to hear, how running has come to help you, but you also struggle with it even to this day of getting out the door. So for someone listening who also is kind of nodding along with what you were saying about struggling to get out the door, but then appreciating it once they get out there, what are some things you use to get yourself out the door?
Well, didn't I just say how much I struggled with it?
Yeah, but what do you, so when you are like, I don't want to go,
God.
what do you say or what do you do?
Sometimes it could be something completely superficial. Like,
go put your really expensive camera like a mile down the road and then you have to go get it quickly.
Maybe. No, it's more, sometimes it's just purely stupid reasons. Sometimes I get motivated by running content too, whether it's films, whether it's podcasts.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
That extra nudge to get out the door. So I, with all the content I produce, whether it's podcasts, whether it's film, I think my instinct is always to reverse engineer it from the standpoint of the end consumer. Like, what would I want to see to get me out the door? What would I want to see that's new and interesting and different than what's normally out there? And that's always the thing that I'm looking for. But to assume that I would have answers, I don't know. I'm like everybody else when it comes to seeking motivation. It's kind of this weird dichotomy of this thing that we supposedly love, but it's such a struggle to like fully embrace and wrap your mind around it. And even, to allude back to the why, that was something that I was trying to tap into. It's like, why do I do this? Why do any of us do this? And I do think that you have to go a few levels deeper because there's some, as I said in the film, there's some normalcy or some level of comfort in our discomfort when we're struggling. Yeah. That we're not supposed to be this comfortable. That our bodies start to atrophy. I mean, you see it in a lot of people, especially in Middle America. No offense to the people, my friends back in Middle America, but any state or any areas that has severe obesity, I think it's just a lack of movement and an overconsumption of these unnatural calories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. And I mean, we all know it is a problem, and it's something that running, even if people just start running to lose weight and then they end up changing the whole lifestyle, and then it kind of sets them on a healthier path. It started because of the running, but then it took over everything else and maybe inspire other people. So
it's not even running per se, it's just movement. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know what your experience is like here. So we are in New York City where we're recording, and you're so reliant on your own 2 feet to get around.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's just somewhat anecdotal and something that I haven't like fully paid attention to. But in passing, I've noticed that there's a lot of people where the obesity epidemic hasn't quite, is not as rampant here as it is in other areas.
I feel the same in England. My husband always says that people are like bigger in a different way.
Yeah.
Because people in England, I think, tend to have bigger beer bellies because drinking is a lot more common. Like here, either people, you're an alcoholic or you don't really drink much. Whereas there, most people drink.
And people move with purpose here. It's kind of this weird energy, but it's this infectious energy. It's like, oh my God, I got to move faster.
Yeah. You feel like you got to like jump in and keep up with everyone. But yeah, in England, everyone walks everywhere. So I don't see the same kind of bodies as much as I do over here. And I think where I lived in Kentucky, we had a Target 1 mile away from where we lived, but I couldn't get there.
Yeah.
I had to drive. And that drove me crazy that I had to drive 1 mile to Target, like a store that I should be able to take my daughter on a nice walk to, but there was no sidewalk. So yeah, there's definitely a problem. And I mean, I'm hoping there is a solution, but I don't know how things can change that much.
Well, I always encourage anybody who is seeking to lose weight, to get in shape, just like, slap on some earbuds, listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook, and just walk, just move.
Yeah.
This is how we evolved as a species.
Yep.
Like this thing that comes so naturally to us it's become this form of punishment. To go back to how I started this whole crazy endeavor, it's like anytime we look at something as punitive and not something that should be our natural state of constant movement, whether we, from our nomadic past, whether as hunter-gatherers, as people who do crops, hunt, whatever it was, like our bodies were clearly designed for movement, and to rob ourselves of that movement in any way, whether it's back of the pack 15-minute miles to some of the faster people, I think you're just kind of depriving yourself of being your true self and being in your natural state. Yeah.
Well, I would hope most people listening have kind of already started at least their journey for that. And if you are starting, you are continuing and trusting that things are going to continue to improve and your life's going to continue to be fulfilled by just the sport and what it brings.
And isn't it crazy what movement does for us mentally too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Some of my best thinking is on those trail runs when I'm solo. And I have an idea, and I've quite literally...
Yeah, what do you do, though? Because I always struggle with, like, should I take a pen with me?
I voice memo a lot.
Oh,
so there's a lot of recording on my phone. I can share some of them with you, where I'm huffing and puffing up a mountain. Okay, so video idea. Why don't you reach out to Courtney? Or why don't you reach out to Timmy Olsen? Or, just these crazy hairballed ideas. And I wouldn't be surprised.
Where do you have your phone that's so easy to grab?
I have like a...
Oh, you have a belt.
I have like a waistband, a naked belt. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but it conforms to your body and you barely notice it. So your smartphone is kind of flush against your body and you can carry a water bottle and other stuff. So,
Okay, I'll have to look that up. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about The Why, the movie The Why. Now, one of the things that I loved about that is that it seemed to capture kind of what the average person like myself or someone else listening would be kind of feeling and experiencing it. We hear all the time people saying, you're so much stronger than you realize, you can do so much more than you believe. But then to me, the idea, and me as someone who probably more than the average person could get away with this because of my talent, I can't see how I could get past, mile 35 and be like, I have 65 more miles. But in the video, you showed that, like, you reached a point pretty early on where you were like, I don't know if I can do this. So it was really just not good to see you struggle, but to know that actually most people would kind of feel like that, even if people like Courtney can just seemingly breeze around
with a smile on her face.
So tell us, for those who haven't seen the video, and I will put a link in the show notes for everyone to watch, and obviously some links to his channels and things as well, but tell us about, what did you notice during that video? And you said what one of the goals was, but what else did you hope to get out of it?
Oh, it's always unintended consequences that surprise me pleasantly for the most part. And the things that I've heard from people they weren't necessarily, some of them that I heard from weren't necessarily runners at all. And they probably will never be runners. Some people told me they've gotten into ultra marathons because of that video, which blows my mind.
No, I would believe it. Like that video was the most convincing video for me. Absolutely.
So I did a project around Leadville. So my race was 2017. I went back to Leadville 2018. And again, like, this is just not my nature, so I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass. It was crazy being in that environment the year after that film came out, and people telling me, like, people coming up to me.
Just recognizing you?
Recognizing me, telling me that they were there because they saw that video. And it was like, I was there to do a project about two other athletes. So I was there to work, but it truly blew my mind how a film that was largely about yours truly, again, this little kid from Korea, came here 6 years old, who peed his pants while standing in line because he didn't know how to ask if he could go to the bathroom. That kid made a film where probably by now hundreds of people have reached out to me to tell me thank you, that they've started running ultras because of that film, or that they're not a runner, they will never be a runner, but that film still moved me. And that's like, those are the greatest compliments. There's the things that I did not quite see. I figured there would be a handful of people who would find it relatable, that maybe ultra marathoners would share with their spouses, with their family members, like, this is like the stupid thing that I dedicate all these weekends towards. But to see all these different avenues opening up to people who are considering it, who see value in it, who see value in pushing yourself beyond your comfort level, has been like mind-blowing. It's been a kind of a crazy journey.
Yeah, but it's so easy to see why. And if you haven't watched it yet, those of you listening, be sure you go do it, because it really, like, that was the first video I remember seeing of yours, and then I kind of got hooked down a Billy hole.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah. And then it was I'm sure with most people with
there was this fine balance of how much of you complaining about how things hurt can you show versus trying to tell people that this is ultimately a good thing. Not necessarily a 100 marathoner or a 100 miler, excuse me. This
New York is just
distracting me. Yeah.
reminding us it's still here.
But just to move, just to do something. It doesn't even have to be a physical endeavor. It could be career oriented. It could be something that you've put off because it's too challenging, it's too daunting. I think 100 miler, and now like there's all these other distances that are mind blowing, but it's scary for just about everybody towing that line, and you don't know the outcome because outcomes, especially in this day and age with technology and with hacks, are so predictable. Like, you can find ways to get from point A to B. For a 100-mile race, or something like a 100-mile race, where there's so much uncertainty, I think that's a great thing, where you are challenging yourself, and you are challenging yourself beyond what you thought you were capable of doing, and to ultimately grow as a person.
Yeah, and it just showed that so well, and I, again, recommend everyone go watch it. Tell us about the filmmaking then. How did that end up being your career path?
Do you want the 5K version? Do you want the half marathon version? Do you want the ultra marathon
Let's
version?
go for the half marathon version again.
All right, let's pick the middle one again. So I did not see this as an obvious career path whatsoever. First of all, I always marvel at this unique period of time that we're living through where we saw life before technology, internet, access to the entire world.
Yep.
Just boom, opened up, right? Before you had to coordinate with someone where you're meeting for lunch. And if that person didn't show up or
you'd be there on time
late,
because,
Yeah, it certainly held people more accountable. So I was at this period where, to be a filmmaker required a Hollywood type budget and gaffers and focus pullers and set lighting people. And it was not like filmmaking as we know today where you could buy a DSLR camera and a couple of other accessories. So it is part and parcel, part of my journey of running. Kind of parallels that in that there was somebody who, I lost my father, and it's kind of the reason why I started running to begin with. But somebody created a trailer. It was actually the composer. So this is how small this world can be sometimes, or coincidental, or magical, I guess, this world can be. The composer of Dean's film, the ultramarathon, 50 marathon, 50 days, the composer of that film was creating a book. Yes, the Dean Karnazes documentary by J.B. Benna. So he was hired as a composer. He was motivated by Dean to document his own running journey for his first marathon because he lost his dad. So he cut together a trailer. And back then, there was no real Facebook or anything like that. We were on the Runner's World message boards, the forums. And he linked the trailer. I saw it and I said, hey, just want to let you know I saw the trailer. I was very moving, very touched. I lost my dad too, so it moved me that much more. And then we messaged each other back and forth, and it turns out that he lived just a few blocks away from me. Yeah, so we met up for a run. And then after that run, we went back to his house, and he showed me a rough cut of the film. And then it just organically grew from there where I would come by, help him structure the story. Like, why don't we move this piece there? I'm not knowing anything. I was just like the backseat driver.
Wow.
And then, so the film came out. It was like a short half marathon, short film. Half marathon. Did I just say that again? The marathon is clearly on my mind.
Yes.
Again, okay. We're a day before the New York City Marathon. But we released a short film. And then we decided to form a production company together, with him being the production side, me being more the business and post-production side. And that lasted about a year and a half. He went back to composing. I continued on this journey as more of a hobbyist, but then, went through the proper tools to continually improve my craft. And I knew I wanted to create something from it. I never imagined that it can actually be a viable thing. But I still remember when I first made my film that really resonated with people on my social media, blew up. I was actually talking with my friend Sally about this not too long ago, where it was a film about the Sean O'Brien race back in 2014. And I wanted to, again, using my instincts as somebody, as an end consumer, where there was a dearth of this kind of film content especially about ultramarathons, I wanted to see something where there was a story and an arc and you're following these athletes throughout the race. And I posted on social media, like on Facebook, say, hey, go see this if you want, whatever. And then my social media started blowing up. And I was like, oh my God, there's clearly something here. And so I did another project. And I released that film with Sally back in 2014 about her race. And that film gained a lot of traction. And then these non-endemic brands or certain brands within the community started reaching out to me and say, hey, you did this. Can we do this? And it just kind of took on a life of its own. And it was very much a passive income, one-off type thing until it slowly became a full-time thing.
Yeah. And did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome at any point, having not gone through like film school or anything kind of, that wasn't kind of what you set yourself out to do? Or are you fortunate that you didn't really, just because you kind of grew it organically and just were learning as you went, you kind of just were appreciating the journey?
The more apt question would be, do I still? And the answer is yes.
See that? I mean, like to me, and I'm sure most people listening, they think, how could that be the case? But that just shows, we all feel that way. I feel that way sometimes before live shows.
I am blown away by people who have super high self-esteem, but their output is utter crap, objective crap. And I'm kind of envious of them. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. But I will never, to go back to the earlier part of this conversation, there's nothing that I've done that I feel like would merit any kind of the notoriety that I've received.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super grateful for it. I'm super appreciative of it. But when people come up to me, I'm bad at compliments in general or receiving compliments. And I quickly try to shift the conversation about them or to divert them. I don't know where that comes from.
Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty...
but yeah.
Most people would be like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to just say thank you, not to say, yeah, but, or it's just, or, some kind of discounting.
I was just at a 100-mile race last weekend, and it was this race called the Javelina 100. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yeah. So it's just like a hub, like HQ, where the runners do 5 loops. So you're just there as a crew, and they sell pizza, they sell coffee. I was in the pizza line, and I was stuck there waiting for my pizza, which wouldn't be done for 10 or 15 minutes. There was somebody who was clearly moved by my films and was telling me how appreciative he was. But I was stuck in that line, or I was stuck waiting for my pizza to be done for about 10 minutes. It was the most uncomfortable 10 minutes of my life.
Because he's just sending compliments at you.
To no fault to them. I'm not saying anything bad about him, but that's again, imposter syndrome, however you want to label it, it's not something I'm striving to be better at. And I'm super grateful for the position that I'm in, but it does not come easy for me.
Thank you to Janji for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. Have you tried out their stuff yet? Those of you who have told me how much you are loving it, are loving the colors, the styles, the fact that a lot of it is made from recycled materials or alpaca wool, and of course that they are genuinely doing good in this world by working with local designers in developing countries and giving 5% of their profits back to clean water initiatives in that country. That means someone from that country, like Mexico, Uganda, Bolivia, Cambodia, can get to display their work for the world to see, an opportunity they would never otherwise get. And they also get to know they're helping many others when the Clean Water nonprofit helps give them access to something that we totally take for granted. What is not to love about Janji? Okay, I did find one thing. Sometimes I scratch myself when I'm putting the shorts on when I leave the zip poking up, and that hurts and leaves a nice little scratch on my back. But friends, that is literally it. That is the only bad thing I have found. I mean it. When I'm out wearing my Janji tights, so many people stop me and tell me how much they love them, ask me where I got them from, which I obviously send them to janji.com and tell them to use code TinaMuir to get 10% off. And people just keep stopping me, and they're seriously so cute. I have shared my favorite items on my website at tinamuir.com/Janji, or you can go to janji.com and use code TinaMuir for 10% off, as I just said. That's janji.com and use code TinaMuir for 10% off your order.
And they sell pizza, they sell coffee. I was in the pizza line, and I was stuck there waiting for my pizza, which wouldn't be done for 10 or 15 minutes. There was somebody who was clearly moved by my films and was telling me how appreciative he was. But I was stuck in that line, or I was stuck waiting for my pizza to be done for about 10 minutes. It was the most uncomfortable 10 minutes of my life.
Because he's just sending compliments at you.
To no fault to them. I'm not saying anything bad about him, but that's again, imposter syndrome, however you want to label it, it's not something I'm striving to be better at. And I'm super grateful for the position that I'm in, but it does not come easy for me. I'm continually striving to become some version of me that will never fully be complete.
Yeah, well, we're all kind of in that boat with the not quite happy with who we are, and hopefully growing to where we can be more comfortable.
Yeah.
All right. So just for the logistics, for someone who's interested, when it comes to recording one of these events, like a 100 miler, that's a lot of time and distance to cover there. You know, like you said with Javelina, that's, you know, a short loop, but many aren't like that. So what are the logistics when you are doing a film around an individual who is running an ultra or a mountain race or a race itself? How do you record it?
Oh, I've always said that running a 100-mile race is probably easier than recording or documenting a 100-mile race. It really is. You just kind of have to run and move and eat and endure some pain as a runner. On the filmmaking side, there's a lot of hand wringing because it is so unknown. Especially, well, not especially, but for the most part, I do follow a lot of elite athletes. And so on one hand, you're worried about them completing that distance just intact and healthy. But on the other hand, competition starts to come into play. And there's a lot of time, as you might imagine, between the time you see them. We're talking hours and hours of hand wringing, of being nervous, being ready to shoot and film and hit record. And I can tell you countless stories where, because of sleep deprivation, because of some external factor, where something went wrong. I can point back to, I did a film back in 2015 about 3 Nike boys who ran the UTMB and the CCC. And it was like the universe was conspiring against me. So many things went wrong. And I don't know if it's because of sleep deprivation or because of some external factors or something, or an amalgam of all, everything above. But so many things went wrong. And to craft that story properly it really tested me creatively. And in hindsight, it was a great challenge for me to tackle. But I remember on the production side was a logistical nightmare. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just, like in ultras, you can never predict these things. You can't predict how they're going to do, where they're going to finish, and you just have to put your best foot forward and hope for the best and roll with the punches and problem solve on the go and on the fly.
Yeah, I guess we would never think about all that part. You know, I think from the outside, it would mostly be we would think about editing afterwards. But yeah, with a race like that, Well,
I always compare filmmaking, especially what I do, to being a good chef. And that, well, let me rephrase this. It's like being a chef where you don't know the ingredients. So sometimes you can get...
like in England, we call it British Bake Off.
Yeah.
But baking show.
Yeah, I actually loved cooking shows. I used to watch it a lot several years back. And any shows where they had like the mystery ingredient where all the chefs had to use it, you can't control the quality of ingredients that you get. Sometimes it may be this wonderful truffle, ribeye, sirloin, what have you, or it could be utter crap. You have to make something cohesive with Cheetos, with sardines, with hard-boiled eggs. You can't control your ingredients, but I think the mark of a good chef is to be able to take all those ingredients and say, how can I make the most cohesive dish out of all these ingredients? Yep. And I always like making that analogy, and it seems to make sense with people.
Yeah, definitely.
And for me, particularly, like everything usually ties back to food in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, especially when you're in New York. There's food about everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so tell us about your podcast.
So the podcast was, I guess, more or less an extension of my storytelling. And I still don't have like this elevator pitch of, if somebody told me like you just did now, like, what is your podcast about? It's still evolving in my brain. And as a fairly creative person, I think I'm never quite happy with like one thing. I was like challenging myself in different ways. And so there have been some comments from people about like, we need more film content from you. But right now, the podcast endeavor has been exciting for me because it's still relatively new for me.
It's weekly?
It's not. It's all over the place from a timing perspective. I tried to create something that was semi-regular. Then I realized that's not how I work. That I need to be inspired by that person. I need to, like, this want of wanting to talk to somebody has to come really from deep within. Yeah. So once I figured that out about me, I'm like, well, then you're going to have a little latitude and grace over when these episodes come out. And because I'm not really driven by metrics or numbers, that's, for now anyway, that's worked best for me because I do wear so many different hats. Not only am I a creator for my own personal content, which I would love to do more of, but the real how I make the bills and the rent is by working with different brands and creating their content, and then also doing my own personal content, whether it's in the form of films or podcasts. So it's this juggling act that I'm still very, very much so juggling with and trying to find that right balance of output. And it just ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And for people who want more film content, I apologize. For people who want more podcasts, I apologize.
There's only one you.
There's only one me for now, and until I find a model that works where the output can be greater, it's just how things are at the moment.
No, I think that's good, and that's good that you can admit that and say that and be okay with that, because it is difficult when you're in your position where people are asking you for more. It's hard not to want to be a people pleaser and try and give them everything they want, but then run you into the ground. Yeah.
Like, how many people would? I'm sorry, but again. Like, how many people would love to have that, to be in that position? It's what I try not to lose sight of that. I really don't. And I don't know. It's like just me even admitting that or saying that out loud, it kind of blows my mind.
In what way?
In the imposter syndrome-y immigrant way. That something like, I wouldn't say it's ultimately a job. It really is. It's hard, it's a lot of hard work. I'm super sleep deprived from late night edits and filming early mornings here in New York City, doing my job. I'm not here to eat and play around New York City and then run a marathon. I'm here to work. And it's been extremely challenging. I'm pulled in every which direction. And, I have a small crew that I'm working with too and making sure they're taken care of. It is a job. It is work. And it's a lot of sleepless nights, but it's also, I feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I do feel, despite my lack of, despite any insecurities or any imposter syndrome type thing, at my core, at my heart of hearts, I do feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well,
and that can evolve, but who knows?
Yeah, well, that's good. I think you're right where you need to be. All right. So any big goals professionally, or I guess running wise, that, long-term things I would love to someday?
Yeah.
What do you have?
Well, the running part, my own personal athletic endeavors have taken a back seat, and I'm totally fine with that too. It's just the only way I can operate right now and be mentally all there.
Yep.
And be mentally sane. And coming to peace with that was a struggle. Earlier this year, actually, I was signed up for a 100-mile race that I was going to do, that I put out there, and people were expecting. And then, of course, I fell prey to trying to be a people pleaser and produce content around that, and that was super draining.
Yep.
So, for me, professionally, that's where the real ambitions lie. Like, I saw Free Solo. I don't know if you saw that. With Jimmy Chin, the filmmaker for The North Face, and Alex Honnold. Free soloing up the Dawn Wall, not the Dawn Wall, the El Capitan, without ropes, any fixtures, and it was a beautiful film. It won the Oscar for Best Documentary, and I've always modeled trail running, ultra content, somewhat to rock climbing content. I think there are leaps and bounds from where we are, but I do think it is a compass to where trail running videos can go towards one day. And so I would highly recommend you see it. I think
I will.
They made it really widely appealing. It's really, I've seen it dozens of times now. I still like white knuckle my seats because it's so harrowing and so crazy what he was able to accomplish. But from a storytelling aspect, I would one day love to produce a feature film that's not limited like the Y did. Make it a broader appeal, still tell a story. I think that's the mark of a good documentary, is that no matter the subject, no matter what sport you're featuring on, that it can have a wider mass appeal. And I do think there's some intrigue behind what we do in the sport of ultra running.
Well, thank you. I mean, you're already well on your way to getting that, but excited to see that come to life someday. All right. I didn't give you any warning for this, but I have 4 questions I always ask people at the end.
Alrighty.
So be ready.
Fire away.
One piece of advice you would like to give the listeners for life.
For life?
Yep.
Oh, I have a lot. And it's not necessarily, I would never pretend that I would be so sagely in my years to offer up life advice. And this is very much a do as I say, not as I do type thing. But I would say if there's something out there that you've been holding off, I want to make it very simple to the people out there that we get this one life. And I'm reminded of that every now and again in unfortunate and very catastrophic and heartbreaking ways. Like the girl that I'm doing a story on with the Strava piece is her mother has ALS. And her mother was a former marathoner, distance runner, somebody who can move and who can do all the things that we used to do. And her life, her window is closed and narrowed drastically. Yeah. She was supposed to be here. She couldn't even make the trip out. And it's just one of those life reminders like, hey, we don't get a redo. We don't get another shot at this. If there's a girl that you've always wanted to ask out, if there's a career path that you've always wanted to pursue, what, excuse my French, what the are you waiting for?
Yeah. It is so crazy when you think, like, I find myself often thinking, oh, next time. And I'm like, wait, there is no next time. Like, maybe there is, but as far as we know, there is no next time.
But we get so crippled by the minutia of life. Like right now, one thing that's been so frustrating to me is seeing how much people obsess and focus over politics.
Oh, yeah.
And usually you're not that far apart in the macro sense of things. But when we hone in and focus on being critical of one another, of focusing on our differences and how we are actually alike, that in the end, sometimes we want the same things. We just want to pursue it in different paths. People that represent certain things to you, it's heartbreaking sometimes that this is the state of the world. And maybe it's amplified more by social media. Who knows? I mean, there's a whole other conversation we can have about that. But I don't know. I always try to focus on the things that we have in common, the things that really help each other, together in this path, in this journey that we call life.
Yeah.
And that's why lately I've been so bullish about community, of finding commonalities. We have the running thing in common. Now let's really connect all the other aspects of life and how we're more similar and how together we can do great things out there than just obsess over who you voted for, obsess over where you stand on abortion, where you stand on, any other hot button topics that ultimately doesn't mean nearly as much as who you love, how you love, and the things you contribute to the world.
And ultimately, everyone is just doing the best they can. And we need to remind ourselves of that. Thank you. That's great. Really, really interesting to talk about. And thank you for sharing your heart with us there. All right. Speaking of social media, one person to follow and why?
On social media? Oh, there's a ton. There's a ton, obviously. I would probably put my friend Sally out there at Yellow Runner on Instagram.
Sally Runner is her?
Yellow Runner is her Instagram handle, at Sally McRae, I think on Twitter. But Sally is somebody who is so, you see somebody on social media like, are they really like that? And Sally through and through, she comes to the front of mind because we shared a long road trip to Arizona and Javelina last weekend. And all we did was talk about this and talk about that and talk about, whenever Sally and I get to, we talk about the big things in life, the things that we just talked about with question number 1, things in that.
Yeah.
And she is the kind of soul. She does fully give all of herself when she focuses on her audience and the people that follow her to try to create value for them. She means that 110%. Yeah. And I appreciate anybody who's out there trying to better the world, trying to better each individual that follows them. And so I think she's somebody who uses social media right. There's sometimes that, certain stories that kind of bug me. It's like, all right, Sally, we get it. But I won't go into specifics of what those are. But I do think Sally is somebody who's just a very good soul.
Okay, thank you. I've heard wonderful things. I do not follow her, so I will go do that now.
Yes.
All right. Want you to share a running for real moment with us, something that only runners will understand.
Only runners will understand. Only runners will understand. I mean, there's obvious answers, like our obsessive need to worry about going to the bathroom before a race.
Is that an obsessive need though, or do we legitimately have reason to worry about that?
I think that's what everyone's thinking at the starting line more so than anything else.
That's true.
Like right now, I'm thinking about where can I go to the bathroom while we're waiting like 3 hours for
that is
the race
quite
to
a
start.
scary thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess not to be too trite, but I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah, it's okay. Bathroom issues end up being the answer most of the time. So
I have a decently solid stomach, so it's never been an issue for me. But more of like, how do I pee?
Paranoid.
It's like, and not be a gross person.
Well, it's easier for you as a man than it is for a woman. But yes, that's good that you're thinking about that at least.
I actually wanted to create a video on how to surreptitiously pee at the start of a marathon. But yeah, I'll save that for another day.
Oh, yeah, I remember starting Chicago and looking down at my feet and there was just puddles everywhere. Yep. And I was like, oh, that's
nice. Not Gatorade.
No. All right. And finally, what do you tell yourself on the start line of a race?
What do I tell myself at the start line of a race? Again, not to sound trite, but that you get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a celebration of life and fitness, but mainly of life.
Yep.
That I think that if we took on that mindset of, I guess, gratitude for lack of a better word, but deeper than that, that not only there's people who are living, I think there's something about living, like really living and struggling and enduring during those 2 hours, during those 4 hours, during those 16 hours, during those 24 hours, 30 hours, however long your endurance feat is. I think you should embrace all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I think that is truly what makes fast forwarding to the finish line all the more meaningful, all the more remarkable, that you overcame, that you went through these lows. You go back to my film where I'm at the 50-mile turnaround point of Leadville, and every fiber of my being is telling me to just shut it down. You could be in a warm car. You could take your shoes off. You can eat some chips. You can have a Coke. You can relax and say, oh, well, live to fight another day. Mm-hmm. When you go through those lows where every part of you wants to shut it down and quit, having that now in the rearview mirror makes that race all the more meaningful. I've ran races much better and faster and felt fresher at the finish line. But it's truly when you overcome those obstacles, in not just racing, but in life, that you can look back and say, I did that.
So true.
I can always overcome any obstacle. Maybe not any obstacle, but I can at least learn to put my best foot forward in trying to overcome said obstacle. And that's all we can strive for.
Yeah, I think
just to be the best version of ourselves.
I think that comes across so well with Boston 2018, because if you speak to anyone who ran in that race, the weather was terrible. Yes. Anyone you speak to who ran that race, the pride they wear, like it is unlike any other race I've ever known, where people just are so proud to have just finished that race. And because so many people did drop out and, had hypothermia and all kinds of things, I think that race definitely shows exactly what you just said there. They look back on that, as a miserable memory, but with more pride than any other race because they overcame it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember watching that race in awe. Like from the people who won the race, like the Desi's of the world, to the back of the packers who knew they were going to be out there. Yeah. The people who had to drop because of legitimate health reasons, but still decided to toe the line. It's remarkable. Mm-hmm. I think the human spirit is capable of great things, and we just don't test it enough. And we don't push ourselves enough.
So true.
And I think runners are the best people in the world. And that's, I know I'm completely biased, but I am speaking to my people. So I will say you guys are the best people in the world out there, because runners, I don't know. I think there's a level of empathy that you can bring and hopefully carry over into your professional life, your personal life, and just be a better person,
Definitely.
a more well-rounded person, because you know what it's like to be uncomfortable. You know what it's like to struggle. But, I think there's, from the start to the back, it's all relatable.
So true.
It's all relatable. We're all kind of struggling in our own paces, in our own ways.
Mm-hmm.
But, at the end of it, what ties us together is that it's a community. We're human beings. Some better than others, some worse than others. But, at the starting line, the 50,000 people I'm about to toe the line with any race, 100 people at an ultra marathon, I think those people are there because they want to be different, and they just want to do something with themselves and with
themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Billy, just to wrap up, where can people find you? I mentioned you have a YouTube channel, and I will have links to all of these in the show notes. Mm-hmm. But what are some of your social media handles for people to go find?
Yeah, I guess I still play around with Twitter. I do like Twitter for all the discourse and complaining and bad press it gets. I still love, whether it's like stupid jokes or I don't know. Sometimes I share more meaningful content and share people's stories. At Billy Yang there, at Billy Yang on Instagram, Billy Yang Films on YouTube, and the Billy Yang podcast on wherever you find podcasts.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I loved this conversation. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you and all that you stand for, all that you've done, and all that you continue to do. Thank you, Billy.
Appreciate you too. And please continue to support creators like Tina, because this is not, we're not going to buy $1 million house with this work, but it is the most meaningful for us, and our intentions are to hopefully bring some value to you guys.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tina, and everything you do.
Thank you. Friends, the mental training course, Mile 20 Mental Training Win Your Own Race, is already selling fast. We have a pretty big class already. Would you like to join them? You have 1 week left before I close the doors until May 2020. Yes, you heard that right. I'm closing the doors until May 2020. You've been saying for years that you need to work on your mental training, your mental toughness. You say it lets you down in races. You say that's why you gave up, why you didn't reach those goals. And you say you want these goals, but do you want them enough? I have a step-by-step guide for you here, a 12-week course. You can start it at any time you want to. You have lifetime access once you purchase it. But as I said, you will not have access to purchase it again until May 2020, after the end of the month. If you have missed the special intro discount, which if you are listening to this, you have, but you don't want to miss the course and regret it, go check it out now. There is a big group of runners who are also going to be going through it at the same time as you. You'll be supporting one another as you work on your mental strength, and you don't want to be the one missing out. It always is horrible when you feel like you're the only one that didn't join in. And yes, you say, okay, I'll do it myself without paying. I'll do the research. I'll put the time in. But your time is worth more than that. You have so little time. We just feel like we're constantly being stretched. We don't have enough time. And so are you realistically going to do it? Why haven't you done it yet? There's been all these free podcast episodes, all the articles out there, all the advice, but have you implemented any of it? If not, I'm sorry to be harsh, and I hope this doesn't come across as mean, but you probably need the support and help, which we all do. And that's where this course comes in. I'll be talking to you directly. I'll be sending you these videos, and I'll be sending you emails every week to check in on how you're doing. You have a Facebook group to support the others, and they'll be supporting you during those weeks. There'll be check-ins often. Go to tinamuir.com/mental training to find out more. That's TINAMUIR.com/mental training. That's all one word, mental training, to find out more. My friends, if you have a minute and you could leave a review on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or whatever else podcast player you use to listen to this podcast, or if you would subscribe to this podcast, you will help me get out in front of new runners to make our tribe even bigger and even better. It might not seem like you as one person can make a difference, but really it helps a lot. And it shows me you appreciate the hard work I put in for those. Thank you so much. Thank you to Billy for your time, for being vulnerable and having a conversation with me that was just totally real, raw, and just made you so much more lovable than you already were. And I really admired Billy even before. Honestly, friends, it can be a bit scary when you meet these people who have just blown up in the industry, that their head is going to be really big and they're going to talk down to you and the audience. It's going to be really hard to connect with them. Billy could not have been more down to earth and open about the things that he struggles with, even being this successful as he is. I want to thank him for that. Now, Billy mentioned about supporting creators. Both Billy and I have Patreon accounts, which you can go join to support us to keep going. As he said, we're not trying to build $1 million houses, but we just want to keep going. So thank you to those of you who are already supporting Billy and I. And if you do feel like joining in the future, it's at patreon.com/runningforreal. That's patreon.com/runningforreal with the number 4. Next week, Jared Ward is going to be on the show to talk about the New York City Marathon, what it was like to be on Shark Tank. Yeah, how impressive is that? It's also our annual gift guide episode, so you will hear plenty of gift ideas for yourself and loved ones. And I have some quite creative ones because I am feeling particularly sensitive about the environmental issue. So I have plenty of unique things that you can give instead of giving physical gifts. So tune in next Friday to hear that. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.